Welcome to Racing Xtra, powered by Wash It. Wash It are the go-to for some heavy hitters like Coles, washing up to 5,000 trucks per week. I'm your host, Bella King, and joining me as always is retired jockey Luke Dittman and Racing X ambassador Jack Jenkins. And this week, our friends at Pickering Luxury Garage picked up our special guest, Australian featherweight UFC champion Jack Jenkins, in a stunning Porsche GT3. Welcome to episode 3, boys.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, welcome, Jack. Thanks for coming.
Good to be here.
Well, Jack, you smashed through the Australian regional scene before getting your shot on Dana White's Contender Series, and you continued your winning streak to stamp your presence in the UFC, all whilst becoming Australian racing's pin-up boy in the process. Do you think you've finally proven that you're more than a one-trick pony?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. It's one of those things when I ended up getting the contract and Dana White called me a one-trick pony, I thought you can sort of take it and try and fight against it, or you can grab it with both hands and run with it. So I did, and I think it's worked out well now in the end. And coming through the Contender Series and just showing grappling, which was why he called me a one-trick pony, because I just wrestled for the whole fight. And then since then, everybody's sort of seen that my skill set goes a lot beyond that, has been good. But I don't know if I'm the pin-up boy for Racing Australia yet, but hopefully get there.
Not
You're
far
on the
off
way.
with that goal of yours.
Yeah, well, Guinea's prelude in 2 weeks, a week and a half now, and it's so strange having a horse. You get way more nervous getting ready for him to run than I do for fights.
Really?
Like way more nervous.
How are you feeling when you got the call up to be on the Contender Series? Obviously, you've smashed your way through the Australian scene. Heading over to Las Vegas, what was it like?
It's a completely different environment, and it's designed to sort of be a pressure cooker and to test you. So they make sure. It's kind of like, the way I describe it, it's like boot camp for the army, where they make you know it's like you're a worm, like you're not part of us yet. You have to sort of get through this first. So you're not allowed to use any of the facilities that are given to everyone else in the UFC. You can't use the Performance Institute. You don't have access to any of the chefs or the food that they get. The clothes they give us, it's like they went to Kmart, got like a shirt, board shorts, and they just printed Dana White's Contender Series on it. There's like none of the glitz and glam you get in the UFC. And then when you walk out, there's no sound. You don't get a walkout song. There's no crowd there. You just walk out and you see a panel, and it's like Dana White, Sean Shelby, who's the matchmaker for my division, Mick Maynard, the other matchmaker, and they're all kind of just sitting there watching you walk out, and you're like, oh God. And then it's the only fight you ever have in your career where winning isn't enough. Like usually you go out there and, you know, you have tougher fights and hard matchups stylistically, but usually if you win, you're going to be happy. Whereas on Contender Series, they make it clear that even if you win, if you don't do it stylishly and if you don't do it impressively, you're not going to get signed, because they don't want people who just win. They want people who put on a show as well. So it adds an element of pressure that you don't get in other fights. So it was real nerve-wracking, but by the time I got through it, I was really happy that I went into the UFC that way, because it kind of sets you up to handle the rest of the pressures that come with it.
How do you deal with that pressure? Like, are you a superstitious man? Do you play music? Do you just go out there and what will be will be? Like, what's your routine?
Well, I try and like lean completely away from any superstitions or like rituals and stuff, because I think then if you don't have access to them, you might it'll affect your mental space. So like, for example, you've got to drink a certain water, or you have to have a certain brand of breakfast or something like that. If with the nature of us fighting overseas and doing things like that, you might not just get the chance to do that. So I try and avoid it where I can, but there's certain things that I do like to do and don't like to do. But in racing, I'm like super superstitious.
Oh, really?
Like what I wear to the races, what I do before it. I always talk to people about what do I do before like one of my horses is running. And I always get up, go for a run, sauna, ice bath, and then go to the races. Everyone's like, geez, I'm already on the beers by the point.
And you,
by the time
you
you're doing
think that affects how your horse runs?
Well,
like,
I know it doesn't. Like, I'm pretty logical. I know it doesn't. But then even my horse raced last weekend, and one of the other owners calls me. He goes, "Oh, the Death Adder's coming. There's a guy coming, and whenever he comes, the horses don't win if he owns them." And I'm like, "Well, tell him not to come. I'm like, tell him to stay in Sydney." And then he came down, and then the horse lost. And now I'm thinking, I don't know if I want him to come down to Caulfield next week. But it's funny being so superstitious on the horse side of things, and then not holding to that at all with the fighting.
Do you think it's a control thing? Obviously, when you head into a fight, you're as prepared as you can be, I assume.
Yeah, it's 100% a control thing. All my friends came to the races last week, and I was just pacing from about race 1, and we weren't up until race 7. And one of my mates said to me, "This is how it feels for us when we watch you fight. You just have to sit here and there's nothing you can do." So, yeah, I suppose it's definitely a control thing.
I had a chat to Natalie this morning, and her first words out of her mouth was, when he nearly fell at the top of the straight, is, "I got out of Jack's way real quick just in case." So I think everyone understands how passionate you are about it.
Yeah, I think Natalie's scarier than me. If you're in
Correct.
racing, I'd stay out of her way more than you are mine. Nah, but when he nearly fell at the top of the straight, that was the only time I was worried. I couldn't care less if he wins or loses or not, but obviously you just want him to come through, and he's got much bigger goals than a listed race at Moonee Valley.
So this is your colt Epimels we're talking about, and he's on a Caulfield path, is that
Yeah,
correct?
Caulfield Guineas path.
Caulfield Guineas, yep. And so he ran 6th in the Mackenzie last weekend. In my opinion, he probably stormed home better than anything, but there was a couple of errors. What did you make of that ride?
Yeah, look, Johnny Allen and a few of the other jockeys as well came over to watch me fight in Perth, and they did me the service of not trying to tell me how to fight, so I'll do them the service of not telling them how to ride horses. Johnny thought he saw a gap and tried to take it, and obviously, it closed in on him or it wasn't there. But as long as the horse pulled through well, that's all you can ask for. And he did hit the line well, and his action was good through the end of the race. So hopefully he just gets through his work this week. I know he licked the bin and ate all his food, so he wasn't too jaded or anything from the run. So, there's the bigger track at Caulfield will suit, and hopefully we just get a juicier price for him now.
So are we taking that price in the Guineas? Is he
still,
worth it?
I still think he's too short. Like, to bet into a futures market like we saw last week, so much can happen. I still think he's too short to bet into a futures market, but if he opens up around that $7 or $8 mark for the prelude in a couple of weeks, I'll be smashing that.
Especially the alley. It's like, I know they're 3-year-olds and they need all the luck they can get, and there's a bunch of them that are at the same talent level. So I suppose if you draw 12, you draw 1. Big difference when those fields come out.
Absolutely.
Well, I suppose fighting is much like racing in that degree. Like we were saying with Johnny Allen, there's a lot of opportunities that either were or weren't taken. What's for you is the point and the borderline where you're doing form on your opponent, and then you're in the ring, it is what it is, and you're making those split-second decisions?
Yeah, such a good question. And it's always like a battle you have with yourself mentally. Like, how much time do I spend adjusting for them versus how much time do I just spend doing what I'm good at? A really good example of that is in my last fight, Herbert. I'm really well known for leg kicks. So I've broken 5 of my last 8 or 9 opponents' legs. And I think Herbert's is probably broken. We haven't confirmed that yet, though. But from when he came out for that fight, every time I twitched the right side of my body, he assumed the leg kick was coming and lifted his front leg up. So before we even started the fight, before we'd thrown a punch, I was already one step ahead of him because he was reacting to something that he'd thought about me doing. So you want to try and avoid that, because if I go out there, as an example, everyone knows Conor McGregor. If I go out and I know Conor McGregor is going to load the left hand, he's going to load the left hand, already he's got me beat because I'm thinking, watch that left hand, and I'm not concentrating on what I'm doing. So you try and put yourself in positions where your opponent might get it over you. So, for example, Herbert was a really good grappler, and he particularly had really good back control. So in training, we're constantly putting me in positions where I'm under duress. I'm really stressed out, I'm really tired, and I've got someone who's good at back control on my back trying to choke me, and just making the right decisions under pressure. That's about as far as we go into studying what they do. And then the rest of the time, it's just refining what I'm doing and trying to get good at what I'm doing.
So obviously the way that you explain it, it's just as much a mental game as it is a physical game. With that, is there like what's more so? Sorry, how do I explain it? What goes into that in the smack talking and the stuff that we see as an entertainment level? Does that have any effect on you as a fighter? Does it have any effect on your opponent, or is it simply just an entertainment thing for the fans?
I think it's case by case. I've had fights where guys have talked mad shit to me, really aggressive. There was one guy calling me a coward, saying I didn't want to fight him, and I just battered him for 5 rounds. Like, it brought out the best in me, that kind of animosity.
Lit a fire.
Yeah, exactly. But then there's other people who, anytime there's more, you say more, you put more pressure on yourself. It's why it's so easy as any kind of athlete. It's easy to just give vanilla answers and to be, oh yeah, we're going to go out there. You know, I'm at my best. I hope he's at his best. We're going to both do our thing, because that's easy. Because then there's not much,
No pressure.
You haven't put anything more on the line than is necessary. It's like, all right, I'm going to go fight and we'll see what happens. Whereas if you like someone like McGregor or an O'Malley and you go out and you say, I'm going to dust him in one round. He's not good enough. I'm much better. And then you fail. That's like, there's such a heavier burden on you. There's so much more pressure. At the moment, I just kind of take it as it comes. If there's animosity shown to me, then I'm more than happy to give it back. But I think at my level, like kind of on the lower end of the card, until you kind of get in the top 15, you're not doing yourself any favors by creating it out of nowhere, which is what I think a lot of guys are trying to do at the moment. They're trying to take the McGregor blueprint and they talk rubbish, and it doesn't add up. You can tell it's fabricated. It doesn't actually mean anything.
And sort of let your actions do the talking kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got heaps of questions. I just want to start off, firstly, obviously, going back to the horses, you're turning up to the track. You've probably got a fight coming up at some point. 90% of the time, you're turning up sober and watching this thing run. Like, that's going to be tough. You know, it's pretty Australian to have a beer while you're watching the horses run around. So.
Yeah, usually if I'm in camp, I try and stay away from the races unless I've got one running. But if I do have one running, I'll go and usually get there while it's walking out the back, go talk to the trainer, and then after the race, sort of excuse myself and get out of there pretty quick.
Of course, you gotta. And of course, like being an athlete, the only time you sort of let the hair down is after a fight, maybe, and probably at the Christmas party, which I'm sure Dana White puts on a pretty good Christmas party for you fellas.
Yeah, we don't get together. It's funny. It's one of those things because we're all like potential opponents for each other, you don't do a lot together. Even like in the hotel for a fight week, you're walking around and there might be a guy there who you're not booked to fight, but he's in your weight class. So you're kind of looking at each other like, geez, he looks big for a featherweight, or he's actually smaller than I thought he was. Like, you're constantly measuring each other up. So there's always this kind of, in the back of your head, I might have to fight that guy, so I'm not going to get too friendly with him.
Yeah. Has there ever been an instance where you've met someone and you're starstruck, like the first time you met Dana or you saw Connor, or is it simply business for you?
Nah, not really. I really liked Adesanya, but then when I met him, his character and the kind of person he is, like, immediately puts you at ease. His TV persona is very much that like superstar, like larger than life. But when you speak to him like man to man, he's actually very down to earth, easy to talk to. So that's probably the only guy I would ever be sort of starstruck from. Dana was pretty cool, but again, I was kind of riding the high of winning the fight and getting the contract. So I was like, you just took that in your stride.
No blackjack at his personal table?
No, I would like to play a bit of blackjack.
I'd just like to have the money to play the same hands, to be honest.
The big hands, they'd be all right.
Those characters like Dana, Adesanya, and even Conor McGregor is what's created the theatrics around the UFC, and it's definitely overtaken boxing in terms of popularity. I'm curious to know if you guys all think we could see a similar transition with the racing industry if we create more theatrics and just a better production around our key characters. What do you guys think?
I think from my perspective, like, I've grown up in it my whole life, so it's old school for me, and it's handled very old school. It's professional. It's straight down the line. Everyone says what you're saying. Well done, mate. Have a good ride. Have a good race. Blah blah blah. Where I think we need to take that new age approach where there should be a little bit of smack talk, or there should be a little bit of push to that under the age of 30 demographic, and bring it in like the football does, or the UFC does, or the NBA does, and make it more exciting. Like, if you go to the races and you got two jockeys mouthing off at each other, there's instantly is Blake going to beat James, or is Tommy going to beat Frosty, or whatever it might be. Now, it doesn't have to be degrading or to some of the level that the UFC is, but just a bit, look, I think X, Y, and Z can't fucking beat me today, and say it on camera.
Yeah.
And look, if it wins, you're a hero. If it loses, you get shit talked, but your name is in the paper, the horse's name is in the paper. Yeah. So that's my view. What about yourself?
Oh, 100%. I even, like, on a smaller scale than that, the Pride of Jenny Twitter account, like, I loved getting on the, like, I would wake up and look and hope Tony Otobre had got his Twitter fingers out and was tweeting people out every time. I would love it. And then you wake up Monday morning and he's like, nah, I'm done. You think about it too much. It causes you too much drama. I'm like, no, bring the Pride of Jenny Twitter account back. I loved it.
We've got a segment in this show, and you've gone off early here, but that is my hate of the week or loathe of the week. So we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute.
But things like that, I'd like to see it. And even
Ben Mellum yesterday.
Yeah.
what did he do?
Well, obviously, Jamie's been charged for that ride. 50% of the population have one opinion, 50% have the other. And as a jockey's perspective, I can see hers. And as a punter's perspective, I can see the stewards. Like, there was a gap there. It was very windy. I can see why she didn't take it. So I'm not going to be the judge and jury here. But
Don't need to be getting a DM from Ben Mellum.
No, and that's it. Look, from a jockey's perspective, she had every reason not to take that gap. There was plenty of wind about. Horses were rolling about all day. But that's for the stewards to sort out. If there's any betting abnormalities, if there's anything they can find on the back end, then it's got to be investigated. And if there isn't, then it's got to be let brush, because at the end of the day, we make a wrong move and we die, or she dies. Mm-hmm. So
I got sent a sheet that had it marked at 220.
Really?
Yeah.
what price you get then?
I didn't back it. I stayed out. I couldn't believe it with Growing Empire in the race. And I was betting with my heart because Epimal's trailed up next to Growing Empire so strong. So I was just thinking, I hope that form comes out and gets franked. So I didn't bet. But yeah, I didn't think it was a 220 chance. And
well, I backed the winner, so I wasn't too concerned on the
You'll
ride.
be all right.
But yeah, it is what it is, unfortunately. And it's one of those things, like, you can sit there and criticise her ride all day. And I get Ben's input, like, it is his partner and you want to defend your partner, but it's a business as well. Like, you don't want your missus coming to screaming off the stage, do you, while you're trying to do your thing? Or,
nah.
it just doesn't hit right, does it?
Nah, not at all. Not at all.
Now, I want to ask about the fight you had that ended your winning streak. You obviously ended with a pretty aggressive elbow injury. Coming back to fighting after that, what was rehab like for you? How long did it take to get over it? And mentally, how was that returning to the octagon after having such a significant injury?
Yeah, purely physically, the first 2 weeks were a bit touch and go, and because you had to wait for the swelling down to go see the surgeon, because they can do an MRI and get the read, but until they do a stability check and actually physically can manipulate it, they don't know the extent of the injury. So that first 2 weeks was like, I'm just on an upward trajectory. I'm still a couple of years off my peak. Is it going to sort of get taken away from me? But as soon as I saw the surgeon, he sat down and he had like a clip of the fight up, and then he had the MRI next to it, and he watches the clip, he reads the MRI, and then he grabs my arm and he starts like clunking it around, and I'm like, oh my God. And then he goes, do this. And he goes, mate, this is unbelievable. He goes, I cannot believe the state your arm is in after that injury. He goes, you'll be right to go back to training in 6 weeks. I was like, oh, that's good news. And it actually ended up being a little bit longer than that. But as soon as he said that, and he told me that when a shoulder goes, it's really likely to re-injure and go again and go again. He said the elbow, once it comes back, it'll be like you didn't even know. It'll be like it'll come back as strong as it was. So sort of from that point, it was really easy for me to switch back into that mindset of just do the rehab you can do every day, get yourself fit, do what you can, and when you're ready to come back, you're ready to come back. And then we kind of let the UFC know that I wanted to come back and fight in March or April, which would have been about 8 or 9 months from the injury. And the UFC came back to us and said, look, we might be able to get you on, but we'd rather you just wait until Perth in August and make your comeback sort of on home soil. And so we spoke to my coaches and we're like, all right, well, let's just do a longer lead in than we would normally have because of the time off. Make sure I'm extra fit, make sure the elbow has a bit more time to get back to 100%. And I think in the end, that was probably the right decision, just to give it a little bit more time. And I think, my performance in the octagon a couple of weeks ago really showed that was the right decision, because I wasn't even breathing between the rounds. I was so fit and I dominated from the start to the finish. Yeah,
for anyone who didn't see it, it was awesome. Like at the end, you said he probably has a suspected broken leg, but
yeah,
he didn't want to get up. He just wanted to give up by the looks of it.
Yeah, there's this, because I've broken a few, you kind of know like a moment when it happens. And there's this timing, there's like a split second where if I kick someone's leg when their foot is in the air, the leg will move because there's nothing pinning it to the ground. So it'll hurt, but it won't break. Whereas if all of their weight is completely on the leg, then the tendons and the muscles are all switched on, so it won't break the leg because it'll get held in place. Yeah. But there's this moment where just as the foot hits the ground, but before everything tenses up, where if you crack it then, you can just get through to the bone. Yeah. And there's this real nice slow-mo.
Sorry, the way you talk about it, I'm like, even my leg's going, oh.
Yeah,
we're learning here,
I like
Luke.
my office job.
There's this real nice slow-mo where he's kind of going backwards, and he takes a big breath and his weight comes down, and just as his weight drops, it just rip it. And you can see that really does damage. I think I probably got through to the bone then. I don't know if I broke it or not, but I'd be confident that if 9 times out of 10, I'll get a break there.
We'll have a report soon, I reckon.
Yeah.
Talking about injuries and inflicting them, obviously we've all seen the interview where you get the DM and you go for the eye shot and you open it up, right? Is that a thing that you're conscious of leading into a fight, to find those areas that you want to target? Like, for instance, when you got over him and you hit that elbow and you're like, there's blood everywhere, where you're like, fuck, I nailed it. That's job done. Yeah,
100%. At the end of the day, what's the difference between me saying my boxing's better than his, I'm going to attack his boxing, or I'm stronger than him, so I'm going to get in the grapple, or, his back leg looks weak, I'm going to attack that. You're going to exploit your opponent's weaknesses. And like, as far as, honor goes, in like, oh, well, I know he's got that injury, so I'm not going to do it. It's like, this guy's trying to separate me from consciousness. Like, his only goal is to beat me up as bad as he can and take my money, and he gets more money. So it's like, I'm gonna take whatever I can get. If you got a sore hand, I'm gonna shake your hand. If you got a sore arm, I'm gonna kick it as hard as I can. Whatever it might be, if I think there's an advantage there for me, I'm gonna take it.
And yeah, like, I understand it, because we got a saying as jockeys is there's no friends on the grass. But like, as soon as you step out of that octagon, you step back in that ring, like, you're human beings and you shake hands and you move on. So I get it. Like, if you want to kill someone the minute you step in that ring, and that's your job too.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I struggle. It takes me a long time to get myself into that headspace of being able to, like, want to take someone out and want to hurt them. It doesn't necessarily come naturally to me to just, like, disregard someone else's well-being. When I fought the guy on Contender Series, I was sitting in my hotel, and you go a little bit crazy fight week. And I was sitting in my hotel, and the guy I was fighting was from Ecuador. And I just Googled what the average salary of someone in Ecuador was. And it was going to be less than we would earn if you won the contract. So I'm thinking, right, this guy, if he beats me, he's going to change probably his whole family's life. Whereas I know I could go work in racing media. I've got, options open to me. So it took me, it was really hard to get into that headspace to try and end that for him. But I'm good at it now. It comes to you.
That would be hard, and obviously fighting has such negative connotations to it. It's quite violent, quite graphic. I assume a lot of people probably think you are a violent character because of your job.
Yeah, for sure. And violent, and usually like meathead.
Yeah.
People always, in racing, I always get, oh, you speak well for a fighter. It's like, well, thank you, I think. I'm not sure if that was necessarily a compliment, but I'll take it. Yeah.
How do you go, like at the pub, do we get people coming up to you going, oh, I can knock you out? Like, is it one of those alpha male things? Like, I know I wouldn't want to take you on.
Yeah.
But there's some people out there that have got that tall poppy syndrome kind of thing.
Nah, not really. Usually everyone's pretty good. The one thing I always get is, like, blokes will come up in a group and one of them will go, can you kick my leg? Can you kick me? And I'm like, nah.
Please tell me to do it.
Exhibit A. We were talking about it. I was talking about it in the car on the way here. And I think once I do one, it's like, well, then you got to say yes to everyone.
Yeah.
So it's just a nah.
The thing is too, like, you're a trained professional athlete to destroy knees, to choke people out. That's like, as a shooter, someone going, oh, can you fire a gun at me? Like, I can, but I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. And I say to people, I'm like, if I actually kicked it, like, there's a really good chance I break it. And they're like, come on, mate. Come on. I'm like, no, I'm serious. I'll break it.
Can you do me one favour, though? If you ever do it, can it be Jack first? And can
you
I
want Jack to go first? Nah, Possum's on the top of the list.
Oh,
he'll get his leg broken.
Actually, we'll go Possum into Jack, because
I kind of weighed it all up, Luke, and I'm thinking, a leg kick's going to do me. Like, a punch is, I'm going either way. So the way I was thinking is, you got the big fight coming up. If anything's going to happen in your weight division with Ortega and Lopez, and they're both, jiu-jitsu sort of based guys, it probably could end in a submission. So I reckon I'd go for the whole choke out before I go for the leg kick.
The rear naked choke.
Let's go for it later. Asphyxiation or whatever it's called. Yeah, that one. It's weird that we're all three of us are turned on.
People want to get choked. People ask me that. I'm like, when people get choked out, they have seizures pretty often. Yeah. Like, it's not a nice thing to do. I've seen guys go out and then they're on the mat just full season up. So it's, if anytime, can you choke me out? Come on. I'm like, no.
But it's a body's response to trauma, right?
Yeah,
so it's not like, you just go to sleep, like people are saying.
Yeah.
What if I sign a waiver?
Nah, I wouldn't do it. Anyone can do it. I won't do it.
Oh, good.
I'm going to start pulling cash out in a second and go, how much is it going to cost?
I got Amex.
So I want to know, like, you got the good cult, right?
Yep.
and you're fighting on Derby Day or close to Derby Day, what do you do
Why,
if they run?
This is my actual worst nightmare.
Do you reckon
having
you
a
can move
fight.
a race meeting?
I don't know if it, like, let's say a fight came up on Guineas Day, and it was like it would have to be the right opportunity. I wouldn't do it for just any fight. Like if it was just a run of the mill, like the same fight that I could get 3 months from now, or the same fight I could get 6 months from now, I would go to Guineas Day. I would go watch the Colt run. But if it was the right opportunity, say like a Diego Lopez has pulled out and there's Ortega there, or, even someone a little lower than that, someone ranked 13, 14, 15, which is going to be a big jump for my career, then I'd have to just be getting the VPN so I could bet from wherever in the US I was watching the race.
Well, I want to break that down even more. He's obviously nominated for a Cox Plate. There's a long way between now and then. Let's say he come out and he brained him in the Guineas and he was favourite in the Cox Plate for whatever reason, and you got the fight of your lifetime on the same day. Where
I'd go to the fight for sure. Go to the fight.
Trophy will always be in the cabinet, mate.
Yeah, and I think like that, although it would be exceedingly rare, you can always try and go back again and get another Colt or get a nice filly and keep going to that well. Whereas your chance to like live out your athletic dreams only comes around once, and then it's gone when it's gone. So I'd always choose the fight, but it would actually break me. If it was the Cox Plate, it would break me.
You're talking like a real racehorse owner too. Like I can always get another one.
Yeah, you can always go back to the well again, much to my girlfriend's displeasure.
Well, I know you've got a great relationship with Nick Ryan, and you're mucking out boxes for him at the moment, apparently. Is this your Rocky Balboa moment?
I'd like to. I have to get I'm not allowed actually, like I can go to the stable, but I'm not allowed to actually do anything until I get my stable hands license. So I've got to actually just get through filling out the paperwork before I'm allowed to do anything.
I don't think you'd have trouble with Racing Victoria.
The stewards came around, I'd be in trouble. No, I know, you want to dot your I's and cross your T's. I wouldn't do anything that would get the stable in trouble. But no, I love going down there of a morning and trying to pick people's brains. I'm trying to get like a good breadth of like the different areas that come with racing. So like I obviously do a little bit of stuff in the media. I've done some stuff with RSN and SEN and racing.com, and then I try and do like some on-course stuff with Nick and try and pick his brain. So we'll go watch track work and I'll be like, well, what are you looking for here? Like what's the difference between a good trial and a bad trial? What's the difference between good track work and bad track work? What's he looking for? And I try and soak in as much as I can there. And then I've got like Jack Jenkins is a professional punter. He runs the mailbag, and I'm like trying to soak up from him. Like, all right, how are you doing your ratings? How does this affect that? How are you finding your bets? So I'm just trying to get like a breadth of experience in the racing industry and figure out when I retire where I want to go with it.
Your commitment to the industry, everyone's just seen it and it's remarkable. And obviously the industry's welcomed you with open arms because of it. I'm curious to know, though, your opinion. Racing and fighting, like we discussed, have very negative connotations associated with both of them. What do you think we need in both industries to get the general public to have a better opinion on both of them?
I think racing, like I'm real passionate on this, racing's got to just like stop apologising. Like we're very much, even around like when Jamie Carr was last talking about getting suspended or whatever, about the public image and that sort of thing, you're never going to get the vegans to eat at a steak restaurant. Like the people who hate racing are always going to hate racing. But we've got this huge majority of the population that are ambivalent. They don't know if they love it because they've never really been introduced to it. They don't know if they hate it. They're just getting told one way or the other. So we've just got to try and engage that 90% that are, they couldn't care either way and get them in the positive camp rather than trying to appease the 2% of people who hate it. And that's what Dana White did with the UFC. Everywhere he went, red flags, put up walls to try and stop him, and he just kept going unapologetically, and that's why it's the juggernaut it is today.
Yeah.
I think you couldn't be more right about that. Is we need to stop worrying about who hates us and worrying about who doesn't know about us.
Yeah.
And just bring them in, keep them entertained, give them a reason to love racing.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's always going to be haters on something when you get that big. So
For
don't worry
sure.
about them.
And even we spend a lot of time worrying about the product we've got. And I think the product is fantastic. Like if you go to a VRC meet or a Moonee Valley meet, the young people there are all having a good time. Like it is a phenomenal time. You go to the rooftop at Flemington between sort of race 7 and stay there until the DJ stops. It is the best few hours you can have. And every time I've taken like made a point to take a friend there who isn't into racing, they always go, oh, when are we going back to the races again? Or I've had 3 or 4 people who have come with me and then subsequently signed up for a membership because they go, this is a great time. So I think we've got a great product. We just stop apologising to the people who are going to hate us no matter what, and just push forward with the positivity and the good things that we've got in the industry.
Definitely. All right, guys, we're going to move into some love and loathe. A picture of Jack Ginnivan out at the pub the day before Hawthorn's game against the Bulldogs last weekend just set the internet alight. But for me, it was when he was celebrating that final quarter goal and pretended to crack open a beer. That just topped it off.
That's definitely my love this week is athletes being real people. Like, there's not enough in it in sport, in my opinion. You've got kids that are 18, 19, 20, like under the age of 30, and they're allowed to behave like kids sometimes. And it's the Tyreek Hill incident where he gets arrested and his celebration from a touchdown is getting the arrested touchdown celebration, and then you've got Jack doing what he did after kicking that goal. Look, I know there's some people out there that'll frown upon it, but I just like seeing the kids do what they love. And
Those people suck.
Yeah.
I know,
Like, if you've got a genuine problem with him going out and, like, the celebration there, like, just get a life. Like, it's funny. It's good for the game. Move on.
And he didn't do anything wrong. Like, he was at the pub. I don't even think he had alcohol.
No, he had a lemon lime and bitters.
Yeah. Difference if he was fucking 2 a.m. and he was shit-faced and then went and played a finals game. You'd be like, okay, mate, pull your head in. But he sat at the pub with his mates, went home, had a good night rest, and then kicked ass on the footy field. Good fucking luck to him.
He'll always be the king of Moonee Valley in my eyes, obviously as a Collingwood supporter. But we know he plays well on the field. He's focused. He's 110%. But where do you guys think is the line? AFL now, it is treated like a professional sport. When my dad and Pop played, it was normal, like beers with dinner the night before. You have a palmy, carb up, you're ready to go for a game. But now they're paid like athletes. They're in the public eye like athletes. Where do you guys think that line is?
That, like, people aren't robots, so you just got to go. I've trained with people, like, at the highest level who will go out for beers up until, like, couple of weeks before the fight, and they have to do that. Like, they train better when they get out and they socialize and they do those sort of things. And then I've trained with people who have to be so anal. They don't drink, they weigh every gram of chicken breast they eat, they're super tidy the other way, and it's just what works for them. And like, I personally, I'm somewhere in the middle. Like, I probably engage in some behaviors that you would think is probably not ideal for someone who is a professional athlete, but then when I lock in, I don't drink for usually like 8 weeks before a fight, and I am very diligent. And I do weigh my food and count my calories and that sort of stuff. So I think it's just person to person. And if Jack gets the best out of himself by going and having a feed at a pub and a lemon lime and bitters and up before a game, then fucking go for it.
I think we're looking at it the wrong way. Like, you look at the results at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If he does what he has to do and he wins and he excels at it, then you praise him. Doesn't matter if he has a beer, doesn't matter if he hits his vape, doesn't matter if he's out the night before, whatever it is. Obviously, there's a line. But if he's at the pub the night before and he fails, then he should get criticised for it because he made a choice that affected his game. And as you said, everyone's different. Everyone handles things differently and behaves differently. But if you're rocking your shit, then you can really do what you want.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he doubled down when he had a cheeky comment under Brodie Grundy's post on Instagram. I'm curious to know what you guys think around having those intra-team comments. If I know obviously you're allowed to talk shit against your opponents, but if you were on a team and you saw your mates doing it in the team, would you be like, mate, come on, like, get over it? Or
no, I wouldn't. But team sport's a bit of a different thing. I'd be like, yeah, go for it. Like, slam him. Why not? I think it was more so that they were saying that he's fired up Port Adelaide now, and he shouldn't have fired up Port Adelaide, saying that they were just going to walk through him. But even then, like, I'm all for that.
Well, that's bullshit, though, because if Port Adelaide isn't already fired up, like, you head into the finals.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Exactly.
What are you doing? You don't need a comment to fire a team up.
Yeah, 100%.
as a Swannies man, how do you feel about the grand final contention?
Oh, look, I think we'll win it pretty easy. We can put games away. We can put games away in a quarter. Like you saw it last week. Sometimes they just play real good footy for one quarter. And that seems to be like the common theme at the moment, like with the last few grand finals. I remember during COVID when Melbourne played and it was like the game was close. And then I swear I got up to go get a beer from the Esky and I came back and Melbourne were up by 30 points. It's like the ability to switch on, smash the scoreboard and then, you know, sort of put the game to bed is what you need to do. And the Swans can do that. So I think we're in a good spot.
Jack, how do you feel?
Look, I can't argue that. I think To be honest, if the Lions aren't there, I want to see an all-Sydney grand final just to piss the people off down south. Being a rugby league man myself, it wouldn't make me happier just to see it go the other way. Just like it would be kind of cool to see an all-Queensland rugby league grand final.
Are you going to go? Obviously, it's in your hometown. You're going to go to the AFL grand final?
Yeah, if the Swans are in, I'll go. I wouldn't go if the Swans weren't in it. Just be there as a sort of an accessory. No, I'd definitely go if the Swans are in it.
Though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a big day.
Well, see, I had I haven't 100% confirmed, but I think next week, because we finished on top of the ladder, we get the Friday night prelim, so you get the extra day. So I'll go up to Sydney to watch the prelim on Friday next week, but then I have to fly back in the morning because the Colts running Guinea's prelude. But if we
Busy
have
weekend.
Nothing worse than the hangover flight, though.
yeah. But if we have the prelim on the Saturday, then I won't be able to go.
All right. Well, how about Pride of Jenny's owner just throwing an absolute tantrum over Miles Fitzner going on SEN and saying that he doesn't think Pride of Jenny will win a race this spring?
You don't get it both ways. Look, you open the Twitter account, you posted what you had to post, and then you copped a bit of backlash about your mare won't win a race this spring. Like, why have the sook? Like, what are your thoughts? You got a big opinion on this? Like,
yeah, I like it both ways. Like, I loved it when he came out and said, "Hey, J-Mac, don't wait for a card into the race next time. Put yourself in it. You got beaten by an Irish jumps jockey." Like, I loved that. Not because I necessarily agreed with it or anything. I just think it was a great call. And then sort of I would get up and look at the Pride of Jenny Twitter account every chance I got. And then when this beef with Miles started, and I know Miles a bit, so I was like loving it because I'm like, I know Miles will keep going and I hope Pride of Jenny keeps going. And then, at the end of the spring, it would have been great to just see him both at the Flemington rooftop on Champions Day, get a photo, have a beer and post that. And it would be like great content all the way through. And then now I've heard the Twitter account's been shut down. It's over. No more fun for anyone, and I hate it. I wish it would come back.
yeah, you shouldn't be able to dish it out, and then when you get it dished to you can't take it. That's my view on the whole situation. It just makes it look shit. And I'm with you, mate. If there was a photo of them shaking hands at the end of the carnival, best friends having a beer, Twitter would fucking erupt.
Oh, they'd love it. I think probably for Tony, it's probably a new experience for him, like plugging into that world and then realizing it's really hard to unplug.
Yeah.
I think everybody goes through it at some point, and probably the older and more distanced you are from it, the harder it's going to hit you. But you get in and you go, whack, here, cop this. And then all of a sudden it's a Wednesday night and you're getting tweeted going and you're going, fuck, I don't know if I really want to do this anymore.
But even he probably deleted the account because he was sick of all the negative comments. The account's deleted. We're still talking about him and we're hammering him for deleting the account. Like,
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
escape it. Once you're in, you're in. You can't go back out.
For sure. And those theatrics, like we were saying, they're exactly what racing needs. It's spring carnival. You've got one of the most highly competitive horses. Even though
Not
obviously
according to
someone's...
Miles.
Well, depends on who you're talking to.
New season, new mare.
But it just creates that excitement around spring carnival and the horses that are running in it. And it brings that personality to racing, which is what we're all saying racing needs. So it's a hard one. Other than horses, obviously we know that there's been a lot of comments under that post saying, I won't follow Pride of Jenny now, don't like the way you've copped this. We saw the same thing with Alligator Blood and some of his owners. Do we see the same thing in other sporting jurisdictions with teams that are disliked because of their owners or affiliates that are associated?
Look, I think it goes back to what you said earlier. You're always going to have the haters. And if they're hating you because you put a post on Instagram or they're hating you because you might have said one off-the-cuff comment, they already hate you to start with. So if you sit there and you be true to yourself, like I look at it this way. If I'm going to say something, I'm going to mean it. Whether or not I'm right, wrong in the eyes of the public, I've said what I think is true and I'm going to stand by it. What I hate to see from people or teams or footy players, wherever it might be, is you say one thing, you realise it's half a shitty comment, and then you retract it. And I'm all for saying sorry and I apologise, didn't mean it, but that should be done in private and you really mean it, not I'm retracting it because the public hated it.
100%.
Yeah. Well, our Tenacity Cranes lift of the week this week, Neodium's full-length romp at Birdsville. I'd never thought we'd be discussing Birdsville as a form reference here, but Luke, what were your thoughts on the
Justin
ride?
Potter, take a bow. Back-to-back Birdsville Cups. Can't go past it. He just did enough and he did too much. Yeah. Honourable mention to IME though. Nash's ride in the Concord. Big win.
That was incredible, yeah.
But yeah, got to go to Birdsville for this week.
I thought you would have gone IME though. Like at that price, was boxed in, looked like I couldn't get a run, and then just romped home.
Did you back it?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
I was giggling like
Let's
a
go.
schoolgirl. I remember sitting in the
He was
office.
so excited.
And Belle's on the couch going, "What are you laughing at?" I was like, "I've just got the best fucking price ever." And
I'd
it
just
turned
been
the
cut
corner.
off too. I tipped the Quinella and then I went to put my money on and I got cut off. I was like, what do you mean? And then he's one over here. I was filthy.
I backed the winner. I backed the Xtra. It's just a fill up. Yeah.
Bang.
But yeah,
How good.
that was just after Hinge absolutely brained me. So we needed a little bounce back.
You need something.
It's me this weekend.
Well, Mornington Glory led all the way to secure his maiden Group 1 win for himself and his trainer Gavin Bedgood, which I don't think anyone anticipated. But another thing that really surprised me was the riding tactics on Lady of Camelot.
I think what Zach did was ride a little bit too much to beat Blake on Estrella and not enough to win the race. Now, that's nothing negative against Zach, and you have to go out. You have to ride your horse better than the best horse in the race, which was Estrella, to win the race. So he had half of it right, but he just made a decision instead of just letting that horse go around him and work and then slot in and get the best run of the race. He made Blake work, and then he kicked up again, and then Blake come back and he come back again. And in the process of the two good horses going neck and neck at it, they let Mornington Glory get away with absolute fucking murder in front. And good on Brownie. He's just picked up a Group 1 because of it, and no one's going to complain. So just a huge effort from him. But look, she was my tip for the week, and the first 300 or 400 probably cost her the race.
What did you think of Gay's comments in the public? Like, I can't say I don't disagree with her. The race was lost when he didn't take the lead. And yes, it was his first 1,000-metre race in one of the quirkiest tracks of Australia. Do you think that it's fair for her then to sit back and burn him? Or do you think that she should have copped her medicine and been like, I put an apprentice on, he doesn't have experience?
It's hard because it all boils down to being her fault for who she puts on, really. But at the end of the day, as a jockey, we take charge of those decisions out there and either go forward, go back, whatever it might be. So there's a little bit of tit for tat there. And look, Zach did make a bad decision, and Gay put an apprentice on at the Valley having his second ride. And it's hard too because everyone knows that Gay's horses lead, they're rock hard fit, you send them to the front. So that would have been the first thing in my mind is get there. And I'm sure the instructions were, you lead. And that's all would have been said.
Well, I Wish I Win ran just as you anticipated. He stormed home late, but the heavyweight and the burden of the Valley, he just couldn't quite clip him. What are your thoughts?
Fuck, he's a good horse. Flashed home like I thought he would. And watch out Everest is all I got to say right now.
This week for your contender and pretender, we head to Group 1 Maccabi Diva Stakes at Headquarters Flemington. What do you have for us?
My contender this week has to be Via Sistina. Look, she's probably too short, but she's justified justified herself being favourite. Beautiful win last start. J-Mac goes down. Waller's got her flying. I just can't see anything going past her.
Do you think with Pride of Jenny she'll be able to bounce back, and will Via Sistina be able to absorb that tempo she puts into the race?
I love Pride of Jenny, and I hate saying this, but she is my pretender this week, and simply because she just didn't show me enough last start. Now, I didn't think she'd win, but I just thought she'd have a bit better run, and it was almost like a trial run for her. But she was just flat. She raced like she was ready for the 2000 already. Now, Kieran's a brilliant trainer. Declan knows her backwards, and I'm sure they looked after her. But I'd love to be proved wrong this week and see her really hit the line and do something magnificent, because then I'd just go out and back her in a Cox Plate.
Definitely. What are you looking at this weekend, Jack?
I'm going to have in the Maccabi Diva, I'm going to have a small gold Antino. I thought his run had a lot of merit last time out, even without a lot of luck. I think he's probably been set for this one at 1,600. I really like the fact that he's going to come down and get to fly down the straight at Flemington, and then it always plays even. Love betting at HQ, because you know when you're going to play 99 times out of 100, it's going to be even. As far as Jenny goes, I can't tell if she was like, she did sort of puncture there at the end, or if we've all just been hoodwinked a little bit, because we know she doesn't run well first up usually. She's never won at 1,400. And then she came out and just ran average, and we all sort of expected more. But we expected more because the camp was telling us to expect more. She's gone in harder fit from the trials. She's better off now. She's a different horse than you've seen before. We've got more confidence with her. So I don't know if we're kind of being hoodwinked a little bit, and she was just flat first up. She doesn't love it first up, and now she's going to come out and they're actually really going to get her rolling, and it's going to be a tough race. And she loves the 1,600 metres at Flem. Like you saw her on Champions Day last year, just enormous. So I'd love to, I'm the same as you, I'd love to see her bounce back and do really well, but I'm going to have a little go at Antino. Leave me out of Via Sestina at that price. I think she's going to be the one to beat, but if they can beat her, I'll be on something else.
What do you guys think about Pinstriped? He's going back-to-back for his Group 1 contest.
I think his grand final was last week. Look, he did what he had to do. Like, I'll take your money on Antino. I reckon if he was going to win a Group 1, it would have been the other week, but...
Yeah. I reckon they'll change something. I reckon he'll go better this week. He'll finish top 3. You want to blame me the place?
Oh, he was going to win a minute ago.
No. I was going to say let's lay the place. If I'm betting outside the odds,
Has
We'll get a
Antino
market.
faced up to Flemington before? I'm just having a look at his form now. Oh, yeah. Last year, Sofitel listed race.
What'd you like about
Jimmy
his run
Orman.
last start? Like, because
I thought he hit the line well, and I just think that he's going to appreciate the track down at Flemington. I think he's going to go good.
they're chalk and cheese, like Flemington and Moonee Valley, obviously.
Yeah,
but
completely different. There's other races on the card that I reckon you can have a go at though and find some value though. I really like in race 4 Aardvark. I think Growing Empire honestly taken up probably 50 or 60% of the market at his price. And then you go down and you find Aardvark, and he's ran at the straight and he's ran the distance, and he was really impressive. And he had a trial. He had a trial last year before his first race, and off that trial, he sold for like a stupid price. So he's yet to probably justify that price with the way he's run. But if you go back and go, all right, he likes the straight, we know he can handle it, there might be a bit of value there.
Do you reckon he'll be able to face up to Growing Empire, though, like with those short odds?
Well, yeah, look, if Growing Empire comes out and he's the star that they think he's going to be, he's probably going to go to the Everest. I've heard that if he comes out and wins now, that they're going to, try and get that Yulong slot in the Everest. So
that's a different league again, though.
Yeah.
That's like
So
you're
hard.
playing
Going
with
through the ranks
you're playing with
very
the good
quickly.
boys, and then you go to the Everest and you're playing with the big digs. Like that's a different league there.
Well, Jack, I know you've done your own contender and pretender for us this week for the NFL. What are you looking forward to?
To be honest with you, I think it's so early in the season that all I want to watch is college football at this stage. I'm not really sure who's going to go well. All my predictions are kind of just been hot and cold. Last week, the season in the NFL started off outstanding. I think the best game that we'll probably see all year was the first game of the season with the Ravens and the Chiefs. It went down to the wire. There was a converted touchdown between the Chiefs and the Ravens at the end, and Lamar Jackson picks the ball from at the back, dances around felt like forever, throws the ball through, they called touchdown, catch made, and under review, if the person catching the ball, the receiver, was wearing a shoe size smaller, it would have been a touchdown, like just foot on the line.
Likely in his big fucking feet.
Yeah, I know. But besides that, I thought Joe Burrow's team, the Bengals, were boring. They just made so many mistakes, but plenty of room for improvement. The Dolphins game was amazing. Tua threw 338 yards or something. He was outstanding to watch with Tyreek Hill. I mean, those two are going to go down in history as probably the most entertaining duo behind Edelman and Brady. So definitely good ones to watch. And it was good to see Aaron Rodgers back fighting after his injury last year, playing some good football.
They were so poor though.
Yeah, he was alright.
Him as a player was great,
good.
right? But the defense was terrible. Like it just sucked to see. Like I thought they'd be able to hold or at least match the weight division for the 49ers, but the 49ers look fucking good.
Yeah.
They earned their spot for sort of winning that conference. But I
Said
want
they
to know,
might be back.
we've got the Miami playing the Bills this week, and that's going to be a good game. I reckon that's my game of the week.
Bills
Yeah.
Mafia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go
Yeah, NFL man?
Dolphins, though.
Nah, I used to be right into it, but I just can't keep up at the moment.
too hard, hey?
Between training and horses, I've got enough on the plate.
There's like 9 hours on just a Sunday of watching football. And
Well, it's a Monday
That's
here.
good.
though.
yeah, and that's the thing, starts at 4 in the morning.
Yeah, if it was on a Sunday here, I would genuinely be right into it. But Monday's like probably our biggest training day.
Yeah.
We're 4 or 5 hours in the gym, so the thought of trying to squeeze out and watch games in between that.
It's hard too, because like if you can't watch it, you can't bet on it, and if you can't bet on it, it's not fun.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, well, before we go, guys, I want to know what everyone's looking out for this weekend. For me, AFL finals all the way. My beloved Pies are out of contention, unfortunately, but after one of the best seasons of footy we've seen, I'm excited to see if what the boys are calling Hockball will bundle out Port Adelaide in straight sets, and hopefully we'll see them face up to the Swannies next weekend. I'm also excited to see the Run to the Rose. I love the theatrics around the Golden Rose every year, but especially that Colts contest. Like, we've got Switzerland and Stormboy facing up again, and you just got to love those matchups with those 3-year-olds. You never know if we're going to see them again before they go off to studs, so I'm looking forward to that one. Luke?
You got NRL finals starting this weekend. Like, that's a massive one. And then the spring really hots up starting now. So they're two big things I'm looking forward to for the weekend.
Jack?
Firstly, for someone who's not much of an AFL man, I'm really looking forward to the Lions playing GWS. I think it's going to be, for the betting people out there, really low-scoring game. Obviously, GWS play a really defensive game. Watching them, they stand off the mark. Real funny. It looks a bit different to an outsider like me. So I think it could be a low-scoring game. Definitely what Luke said. We got the first week of the NRL finals here. I want to see the Cowboys dominate, go through. But I think Bulldogs could be a sharp contender for the premiership title this year for an underdog.
They played terrible last week, though.
I know,
Like,
but
I was all over them, and I just laid down and cried in the pub going, there goes me money.
I still back them. I think it's maybe betting with the heart, not the head.
Yeah, well, that's how else are you supposed to bet?
Yeah. Well, at least Parramatta didn't get the spoons.
Well, the old spoon bowl. Yeah, go the Tigers.
Well, Jack, what are you looking out for this weekend?
I'm not too interested in the finals because Swans aren't playing, but definitely just the whole card at Flemington. I think if you go through race 1 to race 10, it's hard to find a bad race. And if you can't find a bad race, it's usually going to be a good day.
You got UFC coming up at the Sphere. What's your thoughts on that? Pretty cool venue, or do you think that's just a bit of a novelty?
Fuck, I would have loved to fight there. It would be so sick.
Yeah.
But whether they pull it off or not, we'll find out Sunday.
Have you been in it? You been in this?
I've not been in. I've been on the outside of it.
Yeah,
but I haven't been in it.
Same, I've seen it. I just want to know how it works, as in, because in my mind, you got an octagon in the middle, you got fans around it.
Give you a tab of acid on the walk-in.
Around it. The fans aren't around it. It's like a semicircle looking into it.
You're talking about the Sphere?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got obviously like the floor.
screen, yeah.
So it's a bit like, have you seen those things that they play in the college games on in America? There's 3 or 4 have popped up, and I think they're called ultra wide screens, and they're basically booths like a nightclub, and the TV is the same as the Sphere.
Oh, yeah, I
and
have
it looks
seen
like
that.
you're sitting in the game.
Like you're there. Yeah.
So I imagine that's what it's like on a much grander scale.
Right.
So what's like? How?
I don't know how they're going to do it when the fight's on, though, because you can't have like too much shit that would distract the fighters. Like,
Maybe
if
just
I'm
black it
turned and
out.
I've backed my opponent to the cage and the big screen's behind him, like, I'd want it to be fucking blank.
Yeah.
Like, or at least just like a replica of the crowd. Even if it's like a TV screen of me fighting, I'd hate that. Like, anything that I could see.
Well, anything
would be
that
bad.
flashes and takes your eye away.
Yeah.
Or even like I'm looking at you now. If there's the perspective of your back, you're like, what the fuck's going on? And it tricks your mind, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that would be shit. I don't know how they're going to do it. I think that like they'd want to do massive because the card is actually pretty average.
Yeah.
Like
O'Malley
outside
should
of
win, right?
outside of O'Malley and
Lopez and Ortega.
it's like not that many fights that I'm really interested in.
Do you think Lopez stands a chance? Both he's kind of up and coming in the UFC,
Yeah,
right? So
Lopez is really good.
do you think he's got a chance?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fuck yeah.
Ortega's just really dangerous wherever
Yeah.
he goes.
So
But
Aardvark into Lopez.
Aardvark the place maybe. He's fucking paying like $21 or something. Be hard to
not
be
bad
growing
for a
empire,
place.
but
Watch it get up and we splash this all over.
yeah. Oh, fuck, that'd
Literally.
be good. That'd be good. It's funny, Sleeves Egan was riding the biggest thing I've ever tipped, which is actually how I got into this Epimales Cup. I was out for dinner with a heap of boys, and some of them fucking come from a bit of coin, and they were like, oh, Jack's into his races, like, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, oh, you got a tip for us? And I was like, yeah, there's one running this weekend in the South Australian Derby called Dunkell. Paddy Payne horse. And they go, what price is it paying? And I'm like, oh, 21s or something. And they were like, oh, what do you reckon? Should we back it? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to back it.
Grow
And
some
I'm-
balls.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm going to back it.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for joining us here at Racing X. We so appreciate it. And we will catch you all next week on Racing Xtra. Racing Xtra is proudly brought to you by Wash It, and thank you so much to their founder, Ben Hennock, for supporting this project. Like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts to join in on a next-gen racing experience.